Hi, everyone. Sorry we're getting started just a couple minutes late. We had a little technical issue, but hopefully you're all seeing everything fine, and uh, and we'll get some fun stuff in here. We always at the very beginning are like, "Is it live? Is it going? Can you hear me? Is it too loud? Is it too soft?" So if there's something critically wrong, just let me know, and the guys outside will try to let me know in here through a very high-tech shared thing we've got going on here. So I think we're okay. Well, TGIF, everyone, wherever you're watching. I think I might have a mic from Australia on. It's the middle of the night. I think it's about 3 o'clock in the morning there. I guess 2:30 or 3, something like that. Um, so if you're on mic, thanks for staying up late. For everyone else here in the States, I'm going to just dig in and do a few things. The topic I'm going to cover today, and I'm just probably going to take 5-10 minutes doing it, and then we'll take some questions. We're going to do this for about a half an hour, and then I'm actually going to close this one off and jump over to a live one on Facebook if you want to see a repeat performance or close to it anyway. Um, and I think you can, if anyone's not done one of these before, if I understand it correctly, what you guys are looking at, there's actually like a chat, or actually on YouTube, you just, I think if you just make comments, you can just comment below the video and we'll actually see them. And so if you've got a question or something, I'll try to get to that too. We've got Ryan moderating things today. So anyway, what I want to talk about and just kind of unload on everybody for some reason, I don't know whether it's, it's official Start Singing with People month or something, but I have gotten a plethora of questions over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Not that I don't get this question all the time anyway, but it seems even more recently for some reason about Scott, how do how can we do things a little differently if we're accompanying ourselves singing or someone else singing or a horn player playing or something versus playing solo style piano where you're responsible for everything. So that's what I'm going to do a little bit. And it's a pretty simple concept. Of course, you can once you swing the door open, you can do it for the rest of your life. The kind of fun thing about it is that once I hope what happens by the time you're done here in the next 10, 15 minutes, that if you if you kind of understand this concept of, wow, I don't need to play the melody line anymore, which is what I'm going to tell you about, then you'll start hearing it like crazy. That's what's always funny, and that's what's kind of a good thing about if I can just kind of conceptually open this door for you today, then as you start listening to things or you listen to listen to a bunch of old Tony Bennett or Frank Sinatra, listen to good old singers that are just singing along with piano players, and you'll just hear example after example of what I'm talking about, and then you can really kind of open your ears to that and maybe start imitating a little bit of it. So let me go ahead and dig in. I'll go ahead and switch to the key shot there. Hi there. Wow, look at those old hands. Woo! Okay, so um, when we're playing in, like, for students of mine, the fairly beginning students, and even when you get going a little bit more, what we kind of conceptually always think about in this style, and again, we're reading from lead sheets, right? We're not reading traditional piano music. For those of you that have just stumbled on this, my whole bag is learning how to play non-classical tunes from lead sheets. And what we do is we play chords in our left hand, which are given to us with the chord symbols, up above the staff of music, and then we tend to play the melody line in the right. So it's chords, harmony in left, melody in right. So, and I'm going to use San Francisco, and I will apologize up front because I'm going to do this in C because it's a little bit easier to play, and that's not the key I ever play this tune in. So I'm probably going to hack through this a little bit, but it's the key that we've got the tune in our in my Scott the Piano Guy's fake book. So I thought I'd go ahead and do that one in case anyone was wanting to dig in along with me on this thing. But anyway, so this tune is it's I left my heart right. So, the idea being there is that you have, chords. So I was playing I left my heart. I was playing a C major 7, then do an A7. So the harmony's down here, right? Ba-da-da-da. Well, in solo style, I have to play that melody because you're not hearing it anywhere else, right? So I have to play, right? So that was my responsibility. Well, when you go to accompaniment style, someone is already singing that or playing it, right? So if someone is singing or playing it, you don't need to double it up as a piano player. And in fact, not only do you not need to, you shouldn't. That's oftentimes, if some of you are singers that are watching this and you think, it's the weirdest thing. I play, sometimes I sing with Tom, and it's just the easiest thing in the world. He's such a great accompanist. And then I go and I play with David, and David, we just are always kind of butting heads a little bit, and you can't really put your finger on what it is. Well, I bet you what it is that David is playing the melody line, so you're kind of stepping on each other's toes, and that's a really unprofessional thing to do. So as an accompanist, you maybe want to hint at the melody a little bit, but basically the idea is you don't want to play it. So you know what? Woohoo! That's great news because now we've got all this extra space in our hands to do something else with, right? So instead of the big concept being chords in left hand and melody in right, that's what I would call solo style, right? Like that, right? Instead, you can think, oh, okay, now I don't need to play the melody up here anymore, so why don't I play more chord stuff with my right hand, and then it will free my left hand to play more bass line stuff. Right? So instead of having to reach down and hit, like for example, if I was really playing that tune like that, I would have probably played like, I would have done like that, which is harder. Well, now I don't have to do that anymore, right? Now I can play, and pardon my singing, or I'll whistle or something here, or hum is what I'll do, so I don't scare everyone away. But if I like da 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 da, so now I'm playing a chord with my right hand and some bass line. I'm just playing a root at this point. And I'm playing these chords in inversions, or I can play just a part of the chord. I can play the chord split amongst two hands. And I don't want to get into all the details of that right now, but the point is I just don't have to play the melody line over here. So you've got all these nice new things you can do. So if at a simplest version, I just play, say, a chord in my right hand and something bass line in my left. And again, how you determine your bass line is based on the roots of the chords primarily, right? So ba da da da, that's a C chord. Ba da 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 da. Da 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 da. Wa da da da. So you just move on like that. So you're just playing the chords basically. Something like that, okay? All right. So that's the easiest step one I can give you. And now I'm going to move to step two. But again, to reiterate, so the difference is solo style, it's chords in your left hand, melody in your right. And again, there's with some variation, but these are the big kind of mental blocks, right? So solo style, chords in left, melody on right. Accompaniment style, it's forget about the melody and just play the chords maybe through both hands, but leave your left hand free to play some stuff in the bass. So you do not want to play the melody is what it gets down to. All right, now to become a little bit better accompanist, and this is where you can grow forever, but the really good accompanist, they tend to only play melodic things when the actual melody is being quiet. And that's why I picked this tune, because you'll all relate to this. So check this out. What do you normally hear in the famous old Tony Bennett recording here? He says, I left my heart. And then while he's singing, heart, and the melody's stuck on that note for a measure and one more beat, and nothing's going on in the melody. What does the piano player do? It was Ralph Sharon, I think is who that was. He plays, ah, da, da, da. Then he plays, I'll do it down here. So then he plays this little line, right? Or whatever you want to do. He improvises a little thing. And then, next, in San Francisco, and he stays out of the way when the melody's on, but then San Francisco, while the melody's there, nothing's going on, he moves on and plays. Something like that, right? So it ends up looking like this. So you say, ba-da-da. In San Francisco. Ba-da-da-da. Whatever. I was just, the trick is, you end up doing some flourishes when the melody is not being played, if that makes sense, right? So in that situation, and that's what I'm hoping is sticking, you kind of move out of the I need to play the melody to I need to play in the gaps in the melody. I'm just going to do some little noodling around while there's some space, okay? And I just saw saying the piano's too loud. I'll turn that down right now. Sorry, hang on. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, we were having some issues at the beginning, and I couldn't I could not do a sound check before we got going. Let me turn that down just a little bit. Sorry. My apologies. There we go. There, I just cranked the piano down a little bit. Hopefully that'll help. Thanks for telling me if that was the problem. Okay. So again, that's the issue. So we have right. Ba-da-da-da-da. So as a piano player, as a piano player, you have to really, be thinking about what the melody is, kind of listening to whoever it is you're playing for, or accompanying as a singer, and then you noodle around and do a little something between the melody, okay, between the melody line. So when there's some gaps, you kind of fill it in as the accompanist. So that's kind of the big broad approach to this. All right, that's my answer for that question all the time. And I'm not going to get into it much deeper in this little half an hour thing, but that's the idea. So conceptually, if that makes some sense to you, now what I want you to do is, as you're listening to tunes, go out and listen to some famous old singers, right? Not necessarily old or new, but somebody that's playing with a piano player with a piano accompaniment, and you'll start hearing this. Wow, yeah, all these little interesting things the piano player's playing. They're doing it between the melody, right? They're not doubling the melody, and that is the ultimate number one amateur mistake that most piano players do. An accompanist gets out, and it's probably because they're used to playing for choirs or something where they're having to double the parts, or it's one thing if you're teaching someone what the melody is. If somebody that you're playing for doesn't know the tune yet, well, you might have to plunk out the melody until they learn it. But the point is, once they have learned the melody, or they're playing the melody or singing the melody, you don't want to double it up, or you'll just be doing like this and butting heads with each other the whole time. So there, that's my little pro tip on how to do some accompaniment. The great news, if you're accompanying yourself singing, it just gets a boatload easier because you've taken one of the big pieces away. You don't have to worry about playing the melody in your hands anymore. You just sing it, and all you've got to really worry about is just playing the chord changes. Makes things a lot easier. So it's always good news when someone starts playing in this style because they want to sing. Because I always say, well, you know what? You're going to save yourself a lot of grief because you won't even have to go through the effort of sometimes playing tough melody lines, especially when a tune gets faster or it's a kind of a complicated melody line. When all you have to do is worry about plunking down the chord changes, and if you can sing the melody, it just makes things a lot simpler. So that's that. All right, there's my topic for today. Let me look. Here's a question. Armin from Germany. I'd love to get some recommendations on beginner right hand patterns, how to enhance the melody a little. So, okay, so that's kind of what we were talking about. I could continue that a little bit, I guess. Let me switch down here. The type of thing, if you're, one great way to kind of always play safe notes is to just stick to chord tones, but just separate them up higher. I probably should have backed off this camera a little bit, but for example, that famous line that Ralph Sharon plays on San Francisco, where it says, "I left my heart," right? Sorry, it's the wrong key. "I left my heart," and then he plays. Plays. That's that line. Well, look what it is. The chord right there is a C major 7. "I left my heart." That's what the chord symbol would say, C major 7. And look at the line he plays. Right? He just plays right up a C chord. Comes back down to the 7th. Right? And then "in San Francisco." Now it's a D minor 7. Right? And listen to this line. The next line he played is. Right? So you can always do that wherever you are in a tune. Whatever chords you're playing. You just play chord tones. There's an A7, right? So play some notes that are in the A7. Something like that. Just make it up. Here's a D minor 7. Okay, there's where we were in that tune. So when you're on that one, you could play G7. Whatever it is. Things like that. So, Armin, I think probably my best get, my first kind of shove off the cliff a little bit is to try to just stick to chord tones. And that's not a law. I mean, you don't have to stick just to them, but that really will give you kind of a good skeleton to follow, or kind of some structure to follow that you can then noodle around. Another really, when you're doing that, to make it a little more interesting, is just, instead of just playing the actual note, you can slide up to, like, if you're playing D minor 7, you can play, anything like that. I mean, you can noodle around a little bit to enhance it, I guess, and make it sound a little bit better. But I think probably the best bet is try to stick to chord tones. That's a good one. So, any other questions out there right now on this type of thing or on the accompaniment stuff? Looks like ah, there's a name. I'm going to say it wrong. Suishiro? Suishiro? I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, whatever it is. Maybe some jazz piano, chords, and improvisation tips. Well, I'll tell you one, the chord tip I can give you on like what I was playing. Let's just stick to this since I'm doing it. The chord changes to San Francisco at the beginning in C, which again is making my mind explode because it's not what I normally play it. But so it's going to be C to an A7, then to a D minor 7, and then to a G7. Right, so it's right. Okay, just kidding. Right. So it was right. So it's as far as the chord way, if you instead of playing, here's a good way to very quickly play some more jazzy sounding chords, is play the root and the fifth in your left hand. Okay, say it's a 4-note chord. Here's a C major 7, 1, 3, 5, 7. Right. Play the first and the third of a 4-note chord. I'm sorry, it's first and the fifth. It's the I'm changing two terms. If you're counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So play the first and the fifth in your left hand, and then play the other two, the seventh and the third, in your right hand. So you're just pulling that third on top. That's a nice open voicing that works a lot of the time, right? That's just one of those kind of standard things you can almost always use that voicing, and it's not far out or super hard, but it's just kind of a good, safe one to use almost all the time. It's just taking a stacked chord and pulling the third out on top, right? So if I'm doing that, now I would play the chords to San Francisco. I left my heart, right? There's the A7. I'm going to play this one, this one, this one, this one, put the third on top. In San Francisco. Right. So there, that's a good one, a little quick one. All right. So there, that's my little, as far as the improvisation, that's really, that's too big of a can of worms to open up in this kind of a setting here. So, hey Scott, I'm a piano player. I'm very advanced in the classical genre, but I'm having a hard time getting into jazz. Is there a book you can recommend that introduces standards and lead sheets? Well, yeah, yeah. There's it's the book you want, probably the fake book. If you're just starting, it may be a little bit too heavy for you. If you're just starting, I mean, this is a shameless plug, but you asked. I would ponder if you're, I ponder doing the course actually, but one of the books is called Scott the Piano Guy's Favorites and Holiday Songs Fake Book. It's just got I kind of cherry picked a bunch of great piano tunes, and that's a good one. If you're really getting into all the standards, the book that you want to have is called The Real Book, which is always kind of an ironic name for a fake book, but that's the one that's kind of got all the tunes that are in the keys that almost every professional musician, if you're just going out to work a gig, and they all seem to know all the same tunes, it's because they all came from that book. So that book's called The Real Book, R-E-A-L. So if you just get on the internet and find that, that would be my suggestion there. So I think that's about it for what I'm going to talk about. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I had on the accompaniment. Oh, I do know one other thing I want to say. This will take just a couple minutes. This is something else that's popped up on a few comments over the last week and a half, and I've kind of, I think, started a hornet's nest in a couple people's minds unintentionally. And that is having to do with what key you play a tune in, right? Like I've shown how to play a tune, and somebody, I guarantee, after this one, whenever this gets posted, they're going to say, oh, great, he was teaching San Francisco, and it wasn't even in the right key. Like, what's the, oops, sorry, I didn't have my face shot on. It wasn't even in the right key. Sorry about that. I realize I've been looking at my hands for the last few seconds. Here's the deal with keys, gang. What makes a key right for a tune is whether you're playing it in the key that whoever is singing it or playing it can get the melody within their range, right? I mean, if I say, if you wanted to play San Francisco in F, but the singer that you were accompanying couldn't sing it in that key. It was way too high or way too low for his or her range. Well, that doesn't make it then you should find a key that they can sing it in, right? And that's kind of a deeper concept. But the idea is any tune has a melodic line that's whatever the lowest note of the melody and the highest note of the melody somewhere throughout the tune, and whatever that range is, you've got to have a range. The instrument you're playing with has to be able to play that range, or you have to be able to sing it, right? So if you're playing a tune, in a key that's lower than that and it gets below someone's range, well, that's even if that's the key that may have been recorded in some famous recording, that doesn't make it right. It just means for that recording, that's where they did it. And I've I've been trying to explain that a little in the past, and I think people are having a hard time understanding that. So as it comes to accompaniment, if you're accompanying someone or yourself, and you just can't sing the tune because it's way too high or way too low, try moving the tune down or up, depending on what the problem is, and just start playing it, in a different key. And we get in, that's called transposing, and you can manually just handwrite the chords, the different chords if you want. And we get into all that in the course in detail. We've spent a lot of time doing transpositions and all, and 3 or 4 different spots throughout the 6 courses in the method. So, I mean, that's an important thing to know about just if you are going to be doing a lot of accompaniment. So, kind of a little sidelight. So, there you have it. And I know this was kind of a more advanced topic today than we normally talk about, so I hope I didn't blow anyone out of the water. But all this stuff, if this sounds like your cup of tea and something you may want to dip your toes in the water, obviously all this stuff we cover in detail in my online piano course, which can be found at pianoinaflash.com. There's my pitch for the day. But yeah, if this is something that sounds like maybe your cup of tea, we have a totally free intro course, so you can kind of dip your toes in the water and see if it sounds like something you'd like. And I'd encourage you to go do that. Like I said, it's totally free, and you can find that at pianoinaflash.com. I'm sure there will be a link once this gets settled. Our guys will, in the description down there, get a link for that. So, last question. If I've got some, I'm a newbie. In my theory, I'm struggling with left and right hand playing different things. Is this something that just comes, or there's things you can do to train this? Arcane, 1985 is who asked that one. Yeah, that is totally common. I'm assuming what you're talking about is the rub your head, pat your belly stuff, right? All this trying to play, patterns. Something like that, or getting things working together. Different rhythms and stuff like that. That is totally normal. That is by far what most people have issues with at the beginning. A and B is, yes, it's completely solvable. It has to do with slowing things way down. I've got a bunch of videos on that. If not, here on YouTube, there's probably some on my blog you can find at pianoinaflash.com. That is an issue, but it's completely solvable. It just has to do with slowing down and taking exactly what it is you're trying to play and letting your brain figure out which ones need to come down in what order. So yeah, don't freak out if that's giving you a hard time. It's a totally normal thing. About the only people that I think have less problem with that are people that play drums before they start playing piano, because they kind of get their act together when they're playing drum set with all this hand independent stuff. So short answer for that one. Listen, gang, I'm actually going to finish this one. If you want to continue on and actually hear me kind of ramble about this again, I'm going to jump over to Facebook and do a half an hour live stream on Facebook right now. And you can go get to that at facebook.com/thepianoguy, I believe. Yeah, it's The Piano Guy is our Facebook page, and maybe you've already liked it or you're already on there. And if you haven't subscribed to this, if you just happen across this channel on YouTube, please subscribe to this one too, and it'll just keep you in the loop as we do new ones. You'll get notified about them. So that's that. Anybody wants to follow me over, I'll see you in about 5 minutes over on Facebook. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. Everybody back to the basketball games, right? That's where I'm heading in a half an hour. Have a good time. And as always, have fun playing piano.